because we have the Q&A, so I ask Rico and João to go forward. I want to just let you know that we've changed the timeline. So after the Q&A, there won't be a break for the coffee break. We will have the coffee break when everything ends after the debate, so we are more at ease on the next panel after this Q&A. So questions for these gentlemen, please. Questions?
Ricardo, beautiful images, by the way. And out of all of the animals in the ocean that you image as a freediver, what is the one that you feel you connect most with?
After August, those pilot whales. We stayed with them for 30 minutes. The skipper even shut down the engine because they just stay there. And they would actually look at you, show you their belly, vocalize. You could feel the whole thing going through your body. And it was kind of weird at first because the males are really big, but yeah, after these events, definitely them.
Next question. More questions for these gentlemen? Who has a question? I have a question, so if nobody has a question, I have a question. And this is something that I would ask to the three of you. What I find really interesting when we go to this topic of underwater photography, or underwater photography as a way of telling stories, or as underwater as a work of art, which I believe it's more, for example, Rico's thing. I find that the wealth that we have in a way of bringing to the surface something really, really cool is, of course, that different perspectives. So I would like you, each one of you, to comment on a work of another one. So I will start with Ricardo. Please comment on the work of Rico or João. A brief comment, but what would you feel that is different and that it's maybe interesting of having that approach and not yours?
Oh, like Rico, like it's something that I look at his work and it's something that I really appreciate because I could never, like my head, I could never do the same thing. So it's something that I look at it and it's like, oh, that's really cool. I could never do the same. And I look at João's work and I'm like, oof, I wish I was there on some of those moments. And I told him before, mind blowing. We've talked before, only digital. First time meeting him, yeah, absolute legends.
Thank you so much.
Rico, do you want to comment on your partners in crime over there, on what they do and why you think
I am very sorry, I could not understand.
I'm asking you to comment on Ricardo or maybe João work, the things that they do, and if in any way you find that there's a connection between what you do and what they do.
Okay. Actually, both of my dear friends here, including me in some way, we are all on the very same mission. So, storytelling, something both of you did. I find it a very strong story. I like the footage, the video material, the images, very, very nicely done. Usually as a photographer, I don't like all photographs of others. I like yours very much. And you mentioned something like, we are not enough. We feel like we are not enough. We feel like I'm running, swimming, and no one cares. Actually, this is not true. The people notice, and they do care. Maybe not everybody likes to talk in public. Not everybody has the ability to express his or her feelings. But the work of you two guys makes the change, and I recommend to you, keep on swimming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other question for?
This one, good afternoon. This one is for Ricardo, and it has to do with the orca interaction. That image on that sailing boat that they were shooting the orcas.
Uh-huh.
And that was something that I wasn't aware of. I thought that one day that might be one thing that would happen. And what you said that one of the reasons for that interaction with sailing boats might be because they were having too much free time because they now had kind of like free meals. And that's the first time I ever heard, because I've been following that issue, and what I had read so far was that they couldn't quite pinpoint the reason. They thought that there had been a negative interaction with a sailing boat, and it was a learning behavior that they were now passing on to their young. But I wasn't aware that too much free time could be a possible explanation. Was that something that you came across via the scientists, or like a possible explanation? Or, I mean, I'm just curious about that one.
Yeah, so actually that paper that I showed you, that's the paper that explains that behavior and that possibility. And also talking to biologists, there's a very real possibility. Obviously, we'll never know 100%, because like someone ever told me, you're not going to get into a bar, an orc is drinking a beer, and they'll tell you, sit down, I'm going to explain you everything. But it is a learned behavior, and it started with those two families, just the juveniles, not the adults. And then the juveniles taught other juveniles on other families, and mostly you don't see, at first you didn't see any adults doing it, just the juveniles. So yeah, it's one of the possibilities. We'll never know 100%, but that's the one that people believe the most, and that's actually really good that you tell me that you didn't know that was a possibility, because that's exactly the reason why we need to tell this story, and why we need to do it, and we need to tell kids, because kids are going to tell their parents and their parents. The kids are going to teach their parents what the story is and what the possibilities are, so people look at it in a different way.
So Rico, for you, water in the universe is quite unique, right? It has a personality. So, for example, when it freezes, it expands. Most everything contracts. You can irradiate, you can dirty water, and you can always bring it back to pure water, so pure it's toxic to the human body. Or, for example, over millennia, water will erode mountains away. So it's resilient, it's flexible, it's determined, it's all these sorts of things. What aspect of water's personality best describes you?
What water best describes me? It's an interesting question. I feared you come up with something like this. Typical you. I actually, wow, now I must think quickly. I would say the floating river. If I could be something on this planet, except now being here, feeling thirsty, I would be the floating river, which, whatever happens, keeps on floating. In some way, this reflects also my lifestyle, giving energy to trees, giving life space to fish, plants, what or whoever likes to live in there, and just keep on floating. And, well, there's this wishful thinking that people always count on whatever happens, this river still floats. So this is my little mission. Thank you for the question.
Okay, I go to Rick, and then I'll go back to you, okay?
Ricardo, have you ever heard whether the orca, transient or resident orca, has ever hit or even killed a human being in the wild?
In the wild, I think there's only one report of a surfer in California that was surfing in the middle of a lot of sea lions, and he was bitten in the leg. Otherwise, there's no reports of any orca killing in the wild or hurting a person in the wild. In captivity, that's a very different story. There's multiple deaths and multiple attacks, but yeah, in the wild, not really.
Can I just do some comments about orca? Because I've been working also with these families, especially in the Algarve. And one important thing that we got to take in mind is all of the reasons why this species is doing this. The Iberian species is now considered a subspecies. We have the Iberian species composed by 5 families. And the thing is, all of what we see, what we read, even in scientific papers, so far is all assumptions. We cannot say it's because it's this, it's the juveniles playing. They are passing the information in between families. So this is all hypothesis so far.
100%.
And I'm saying this as I'm the voice of some scientists that are based in the Algarve, and they are in those big groups, Save Orca, and so on and so on. But with this said, it's super important to keep pushing the true story, like they are not boogeyman, of course. And about that fatality, that surfer died because they were playing with it. So they have no intention of killing the human being. There's some other stories in the Hawaii, for instance, like false killer whales. So they killed this woman because she was free diving, they were playing, and suddenly a false killer whale grabbed her fin and let's play. But playing for a false killer whale can be a dive until 200 meters. So can you imagine how she popped up? But there's no intention of killing human beings. They are just too smart. About the orca, Paul Watson has a very interesting theory. This just to prove that the Iberian orca are not a boogeyman. They are way too intelligent to understand what's going on. To a point that if they wanted to kill us, they would just jump and break those small sailboats. We are talking about animals with 7 tons of weight. So Paul Watson, his theory is that they are so intelligent and they live long. Their lifespan is long, many years. So they are wise enough to understand if they kill a human being, we are going for them. We'll kill their families, we'll destroy the species. So it's very interesting, this theory, and I kind of believe in it, but again, it's just a theory.
João, I have a question for you. I thought that was a great story you told, and the documentary, the impact that had, that really struck me as important real-world impact. Like, fantastic, congratulations.
Thank you.
What you didn't tell us was how you, I get it that you made the fishermen more aware, but you didn't really explain how you replaced their income. Because, you know, a lot of these things are like follow the money, right? If you can motivate them in a way that preserves their income, you know, they'll stop doing the bad thing. And you've implied to us that they've stopped fishing for these seahorses, but how did you stop them from doing that, like by replacing their income? How do they make their money now?
That's a very good question, thank you. So the funny thing is that the poachers are actually not locals. The international illegal trademark is done like this. So they catch the seahorses, they then go to the border in between Portugal and Spain, and then the Spanish take it to China. So the ones that are poaching are actually not fishermen. And we gotta be very careful to say, this is illegal fishing. No, this is poaching. Illegal fishing is someone with normal fishing nets and they are just taking more than they should, or some undersized species. With seahorses is a complete different game. Actually, this they found like the illegal network of poachers because there was a police in the borders, and they got this couple with 7 kilos of dried seahorses. And you might think 7 kilos is not so much, but these tiny creatures dried, that is the equivalent around 2,500 individuals just in a suitcase. But the first seller, he would make 20,000 euros cash. So that's a very easy job to do. But now again, we have the population with eyes open, and also the marine protected areas help somehow, because that also a problem, because deviate the attention. So if we are protecting this, they are fishing there, poaching there, sorry, not fishing. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, João. I was going to say João and Rico at the same time. Thank you, João. Thank you, Rico. Thank you, Ricardo. It was an incredible panel.